The Iron Rain, a story of war and conscience. News hit me like a knife to the chest. I was sitting in the military barracks when all the communication screens lit up with an emergency broadcast. The Supreme Commander of Earth, the only man who had managed to keep our broken nations working together, was dead. He had been assassinated. What made it worse was that he wasn't killed by another human or by someone who betrayed him. He was murdered by aliens, off-worlders who were supposed to be negotiating peace with us. The room went completely silent. All the soldiers who had fought beside me through blood and dust sat like frozen statues. A voice came through the speakers, trying to sound calm and official. They announced that Supreme Commander Adrien Cain had been killed on Arcturus Prime while trying to make peace with the Galactic Council. He was shot with an energy weapon by an unknown alien attacker. The Council claimed they had nothing to do with it. We all knew what this really meant. Cain had walked into that council meeting as humanity's voice. He was scarred from battles, but he was proud. He was the one man who told the entire galaxy that we wouldn't be their slaves, their toys, or their test subjects. Now he was dead, and those bastards expected us to bow our heads, swallow our grief, and let the galaxy walk all over us. I slammed my fist on the steel table so hard it made the coffee cups rattle. This wasn't some unknown alien killer. They all killed him. Every single one of them was responsible. No one in the room argued with me. Everyone felt the same burning rage inside. Cain wasn't perfect. He could be ruthless, blunt, and showed no mercy to his enemies. But he was ours. He was the only one who stood tall when every alien diplomat and smug council member told us to stay in our place. Without him, Earth would have rotted from within. With him, we were feared and respected. Now his blood stained the floor of their so-called council chamber. That night, everything changed across Earth and all the human colonies. Riots broke out everywhere. Men and women who barely agreed on anything suddenly had one focus: revenge. Governments issued emergency orders. Space fleets were prepared for launch without any debate. The skies above Earth burned bright with the engines of warships leaving orbit. What about me? I didn't think. I didn't sleep. I only remembered Cain's words from months before. If they ever silence me, then you speak with fire. Show them Earth doesn't kneel, it strikes. I was just a captain, nothing more. A soldier who had followed orders my whole life. But now there were no orders to follow, just pure fury. 3 days later, I found myself aboard the warship Iron Rain, watching Earth shrink behind me. The crew wasn't filled with soldiers bound by duty anymore. No. They were men and women filled with something much darker, the desire for revenge. We didn't talk about peace. We didn't talk about holding back. The assassination had burned those words from our vocabulary. The galaxy thought they had cut off the head of the snake. What they didn't know was that they had awakened the poison in its fangs. When Iron Rain docked at Luna Command to get our orders, the generals didn't give us careful strategies or diplomatic instructions. They gave us targets, alien outpost, supply routes, and the names of council members who had voted against Cain's reforms. Every single one was marked in red. In that moment, I realized something chilling. Humanity wasn't just going to defend itself. Humanity was going to become the very nightmare the galaxy had always feared. We weren't mourning anymore. We were hunting. Our first target was the colony of Tazarian 4, a trading hub controlled by the same council species who regretted Cain's death. The plan wasn't clean or surgical. It was punishment, pure and simple. The night before our attack, I stood in the war room staring at the holographic map. Tazarian 4's cities glowed blue, marked as areas with heavy civilian populations. I knew what that meant. Innocent people, traitors, families. But I didn't care. None of us cared anymore. One of my lieutenants, a tough man named Riker, muttered, "They wanted war. Let's show them what Earth calls war." With those words, I understood the truth. Cain's death had ended the age of trying to talk things out. Now came the age of blood. The silence before a battle is always heavier than the fight itself. The Iron Rain drifted through empty space like a predator. Its hull was scarred from old campaigns. Engines humming quietly, waiting for the signal. Every man and woman on board carried the same storm in their chest. This wasn't just another mission. This was the beginning of something we could never take back. Tazarian 4 glowed ahead on our star maps, a beautiful jewel of trade and diplomacy. It was a planet where alien merchants made their fortunes and politicians grew fat with wealth. The Galactic Council had always used it as a showcase, proof that unity between species could work. Now it would serve as proof of something else entirely, that Earth never forgave, and Earth never forgot. I stood on the bridge, watching the holographic display reflect across my face. Riker leaned against the rail, chewing on nothing, his jaw tight with tension. Around us, the crew's voices were low and focused. Each person was strapping into their stations and checking their weapons. There was no laughter, no nervous chatter. Just deadly focus. Drop readiness, I asked. Weapons fully loaded, bomb racks filled with kinetic rods and incendiary devices, replied Lieutenant Harrow, her tone sharp and soldier-like. But there was something deeper in her voice, satisfaction. The Admiral's orders had been simple: strike without hesitation, no surgical targets, no careful distinction between military and civilian targets. The aliens had made no distinction when they put an energy round through Cain's skull. I stared at the timer on the screen. 30 minutes to orbital entry. I remembered Cain's last speech, the one they never let him finish. His words had been about dignity, about showing humanity's worth among the stars. And here I was, preparing to turn entire cities into ash. Captain, Riker's rough voice pulled me out of my thoughts. You thinking about civilians? Yeah, I admitted. He gave a dry laugh. You're still thinking like a human who believes in justice. Don't. We're beyond justice now. This is vengeance. And vengeance doesn't count the bodies. It weighs them. The words settled in me like stone. He was right. The communications system crackled. Captain Hale. The operator called out. Fleet Command authorizes deployment. Iron Rain is cleared for orbital strike. The crew stiffened. Every man turned toward me. They weren't waiting for the Admiral's words. They were waiting for mine. I nodded. You heard command. Drop us into position. Tonight, the galaxy learns what happens when they spill Earth's blood. The bridge erupted into movement. Engines roared to life. Metal groaned as the ship angled toward the planet, through the viewing port. Tazarian grew larger. A world of glittering lights and sprawling city skylines. It was a beautiful place. And soon it would be burning. We broke through the upper atmosphere with a sound like tearing gods apart. Our shields shimmered as fire licked across the hull. Alarms shrieked as the heat pounded us. But the iron rain held steady. When we emerged from the atmosphere, the view was breathtaking. Cities glittered below us. Rivers wound like silver veins through emerald landscapes. Alien architecture spiraled upward, proud and defiant against the sky. Targets locked, Harrow said, her fingers flying over her console. First round loaded, reported Gunnery Chief Dorn. My throat tightened. For a second, I thought of Cain again, his deep, rough laugh echoing across the War Council chamber. He would have hated hesitation. He would have demanded fire. Do it, I said. The ship shuddered as the first rods dropped from orbit, each one a steel spear guided by gravity. I watched them fall on the display, bright streaks tearing through the atmosphere before they slammed into the capital city. The world shook. Even from orbit, we saw the flash. Mushroom-shaped clouds of dust and flame swallowed towers whole. Bridges collapsed. Thousands of lives ended in an instant. Seconds later, the shock wave rolled through our speakers, captured by satellites. A deep, monstrous roar. Gasps filled the bridge, not of horror, but of awe. Humanity's vengeance had teeth. Second round, I ordered, my voice low. The rods fell again, this time scattering across the trade districts. Firestorms erupted. The planet's skies lit up red as warehouses exploded. Ships tore apart during takeoff, and entire markets turned to rubble. On the communication channels, alien voices screamed in panic, sending frantic transmissions across all frequencies. Council vessel, we are under attack. Repeat. Unknown warship attacking Tazarian 4. Unknown. Riker muttered with a sneer. Let them choke on the name. I opened our transmission channel and broadcast on all frequencies. My voice cold and steady. This is Earth's vengeance. You murdered our leader. You silenced our voice. Now hear ours. We are not prey. We are not your servants. We are your reckoning. The silence afterward was deafening. Then the alien panic rose even higher. They scrambled ships, desperate to fight back. Sleek interceptors clawed out of hangars, engines shrieking as they angled toward us. Here they come, Dorn grunted. Guns. Live, I snapped. The iron rain came alive. Cannons blazed. Red tracer fire carved across the sky, tearing interceptors apart before they could close the gap. Alien vessels spun out of control, burning as they fell through clouds. The crew roared as each one died, the sound of righteous fury echoing on the bridge, but they kept coming, wave after wave. For every 5 we destroyed, we dipped lower into the atmosphere, skimming above burning districts. The smell of ash and ionized air filled the air vents. Below, streets ran with the shadows of chaos. Civilians screamed. Soldiers scrambled for cover. Fires consumed entire city blocks. I looked down at it all, my chest feeling hollow. They would call us monsters. They would call us butchers. Maybe they were right. But in this moment, I didn't care. They had killed Cain. They had tried to kill Earth's will. Now they would learn what Earth became when it bled. The crew didn't hesitate. Bomb bays opened, hurling fire down onto military bases, power plants, and spaceports. Explosions thundered one after another. Shock waves rattling our hull. The planet writhed in agony beneath us. Hours passed. Our ship circled like a hawk, tearing at the flesh of Tazarian 4. By the time our weapons stores ran empty, entire districts were gone. Smoke choked the skies. Rivers glowed red with firelight. And still, it wasn't enough for me. Captain Riker said softly, staring at the devastation. What now? I clenched my fist. Now we send a message they'll never bury. I ordered Dorn to drop the last payload on the Council embassy itself, the same building where Cain's death had been signed. With silence. When the bombs hit, the building disintegrated into dust and flame. The Council's proudest symbol burned before their eyes. Silence fell across the bridge. No cheering now, just the heavy breathing of men who had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. We had murdered a world, but in the hollow quiet, a strange calm filled me. For the first time since Cain's death, I felt something close to peace. Because now the galaxy understood, Earth wasn't just another voice in the Council. Earth was war. The smoke of Tazarian 4 still clung to my uniform. Even after decontamination, the smell lingered, embedded in my skin. The smell of charred stone, melted metal, and ash that used to be living bodies. When I closed my eyes, I could still see the mushrooming explosions, the towers collapsing, the screams of alien voices on communication channels as they begged for mercy. And the worst part, I didn't regret it. Not a single second. The Iron Rain was back in orbit, limping along with shields scarred from the fight and ammunition bays empty. The crew was exhausted, hollow-eyed, but none of us slept. None of us wanted to. Sleep meant remembering. Sleep meant dreaming of faces buried in rubble. On the bridge, the silence was thick. No one laughed. No one muttered their usual complaints. We had crossed the line, and every man and woman here knew it. The communication system crackled to life. Fleet command to Captain Hale. The voice was sharp and clipped, carrying the weight of bureaucrats who had no idea what were really smelled like. Tazarian 4's destruction has ignited a firestorm across the Council. Protests on Arcturus, threats from the Torith, demands from the Danari. The galaxy now labels humanity as a rogue species. How do you respond? I lean closer to the communication panel, my jaw tight. Respond. Tell them Earth doesn't respond. Earth acts. There was a pause on the other end, then a sigh. Command anticipated this tone. Captain Hale, the Admiral, has made his decision. Humanity is no longer seeking a place in their council. We are at war. From this day forward, all fleets are unleashed. All colonies, all soldiers. All ships are now mobilized under War Code Directive 1. The words sank like lead in the room. War, not skirmishes, not retaliation. War. Riker gave a humorless chuckle. Well, they finally said it. Took Cain's blood to get us here. But they finally pulled the trigger. This marked the beginning of something truly terrible. What had started as revenge for one man's death became a galaxy-wide conflict that would consume millions of lives. The Iron Rain and its crew were no longer just soldiers following orders. They had become the instruments of humanity's darkest impulses, and there would be no turning back from the path they had chosen. The war that followed would test not just their strength, but their very humanity. As they struck target after target, world after world, the line between justice and genocide would blur until it disappeared entirely. And Captain Hale would have to face the ultimate question in trying to avenge their fallen leader. Had they become the very monsters the galaxy feared them to be? The story of the Iron Rain was just beginning, and it would be written in fire and blood across the stars.